collaborating with Stan quite a lot these days, so it's really nice to have you in the office and to hear a bit more about your story and your project. And maybe to start off, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. First of all, it's great to be back. There's never not enough time to spend with Stan, so I'm delighted to be here once again. So my name is Ash. I currently work as a community engagement officer for an NGO in Ireland, but I've also just recently launched my social enterprise, as you know, Guerrilla Education. I guess who I am, where I come from. So I think the most common thing people say to me is, "How many lives have you lived?" And I think that really kind of encapsulates who I am. I've lived in a bunch of different places. I've done a bunch of different jobs because of, I guess, we say my like where I'm from, my upbringing, we say my social situation is probably the best way to describe it. So because of that, it's really hard to kind of pin down one thing when it comes to answering like who I am or where I'm from. Long story short, I would say that I'm just someone that really wants things to change, not for me, but so others don't have to go through what I've gone through. So we see a lot of what's going on around us. Unfortunately, thanks to those experiences, I feel as though I can interpret it in a bit of a larger kind of, what's the word I can use? Just like a kind of a high level kind of view. And I guess from what I can see, the change that we need, the things that we need to do, such as like just being more human when we interact with other people, is what I want to drive. That's really what I want to change because I think if we can nail that, then we can all have a better life. Um, so there you go.
Amazing. Thanks for that introduction. And you've kind of gone into a little bit about your personal story, like your upbringing, where you come from. Maybe to bring that back to one moment, was there maybe a situation or a moment that you remember that really changed how you feel about social change in general?
It's a good question. I'd say there'd be lots of little moments as opposed to one overall moment. I think one thing that I've recently seen from someone else who is running a social enterprise that has also come from a similar background, from what I understand, is the realization of what I was going through wasn't normal. So again, when I kind of tell back the story of what I grew up in and what I was experiencing to people that come from a safer kind of childhood, the first question is like, how, like, why didn't you do something? Like, why didn't you leave? But you don't, and I think a lot of people that kind of go through those experiences don't realize that it's not normal. You kind of grow up in this environment and you just assume everyone else does as well. So I think the first time was when I started talking to people about it when I was about 16, and people, you see that shocked reaction. You see kind of people recoil a bit and like, wow, like that's mad. Like, and that's where you start to question it. So that's when you realize, right, so what I'm going through isn't normal. Who else is going through this? And then when you start seeing that, well, then why are we going through this? Um, and then it builds on and on from there. So again, to kind of answer that question, I don't like that might have been the first time, but I think it's lots of little examples like that that start to build that bigger picture in your eyes, right? Things need to change. Like things have to change if we're, no one deserves to live like this or like other people living as well. So
Mm. Maybe just for everyone that's listening, would you like to maybe shortly introduce the project that you've built and just, yeah, let them know what it's about and what drives it?
for anyone that knows me, I don't think there's anything I can explain in a short kind of manner. So, um, essentially, so Guerrilla Education primarily focuses on making financial literacy accessible to the people that need it most in Ireland and internationally. So, financial literacy is understanding of money, but also our behavior and attitude towards money. What I realized, and this kind of adds into the last question as well, when I first started studying my undergrad in finance and economics, I was 24, and I remember thinking, like, it's mad that I'm studying this as a specialty when like this touches everyone. Like it doesn't matter what you do in life, it doesn't matter what your job is or whether you have a job or not. Like money is a part of everyone's life. So why do only a certain few kind of get to understand how it works and then be able to um like be exposed to that. So um Guerrilla Education focuses on bringing those key fundamental financial literacy subjects to the people that need it the most. So people from underserved communities, marginalized communities, um, backgrounds and experiences to help them avoid um, making things more complicated for
Mm,
themselves, to kind of help them give them stability, confidence, more control over their
mm,
situation, and a foundation to kind of build up from. So that's one of our key pillars. The other two pillars are the mentorship and the representation. So we make sure the people that are delivering these workshops that we do at Grid Education come from a similar background. So we come from marginalized communities or we come from underserved communities. Um, so that way we can have that relatability between
mm,
us. The person you're talking to knows or understands what you're feeling, and it's not kind of falling on deaf ears.
mm,
And then finally, emotional intelligence and critical thinking, which we've also identified to be as necessary, if not more, to financial literacy skills in terms of foundation and building blocks to be able to um, take control of your own situation um, and help reduce those inequalities.
mm.
Essentially, they give you those resources that other people from better backgrounds or communities have, and really narrow that or reduce the inequality gap.
Mm. Amazing. I was lucky enough to kind of see you develop that idea and the Ideas Collective, and what it has grown into is really remarkable. And yeah, I feel so like privileged to see you grow in that project and like as a person as well. I guess like people always grow with the projects they do, and with you, I can so clearly see like how much the project has changed you and how deeply invested you are in yeah, making financial literacy more available to everyone. Um, I know a bit about your story, but would you like to share a bit more about why this issue in particular is important to you?
Absolutely. Where to start? Well, I think just from my own upbringing. So I grew up in poverty, and already you're on the back foot. There was a lot of conversations happening with friends of mine that were from better backgrounds when I was younger, and they were fortunate enough. Like I guess their lives went off in a different direction to mine. So, as I was growing up, I don't have a leaving cert. We left high school to go and work full time. To bring in money and to try and stabilize the situation. Which again, without that financial literacy skills, you're how can I explain it? You're like, let me start again. So I had left school to go and try and well, to work to bring in money, but because I didn't have those financial literacy skills, a lot of it was, a lot of people from this background will know when you have money, you don't know what to do with it, you don't know how to save effectively, you don't know how to use that to kind of plan for a longer term. So that was kind of, it wasn't effective, it wasn't working. At the same time, my friends were kind of going off to college and choosing what subjects they were going to do. They were starting to enjoy college lifestyle of sleeping in, skipping classes and things like that. If you've had a big night out, and all of this was completely foreign to me because I was doing the responsible thing of being like going to sleep early, so I could get up early for work and go and kind of make money, to try and fix my situation, to fix a nightmare that I was living in, and that's sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Amazing.
Um, What was the question?
Like,
Sorry, I'm going.
no, it's all good. I was asking what about it felt like personal to you about
Mm.
the issue.
So I guess having like recounted all that, I was starting to see. So first of all, I think the most important thing, which really kind of drove grid education, was despite what I was going through, I did have one person that believed in me. Um, this person at the time had no kind of obligation to me. They were not at all responsible for me or who I was or what I was doing.
Mm.
But she had seen something in me in any case, and she decided to try and help me get onto the right track, try and help me not to do it for me, but just kind of guide me in the right sense, that kind of
Mm.
mentorship and guidance. So essentially, what she had started doing, which was driving me nuts at the time, because again, when you're 16, 17, like, you don't, it's hard to acknowledge these things as
Mm.
being helpful or what you need. So, um, essentially what she started doing was giving me things to read, and kind of this was started painting these ideas in mind. One book that she gave me was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which tells a story of two best friends, one dad that kind of has that access to finance and money and whatnot, and the other dad who, if we had to use the political terms from, be white collar dad and blue collar dad, and you see how they kind of take off. Now, this is a huge generalization, but essentially, the young lad with the dad that was blue collar, um, didn't know about things like investing and about savings and about compound interest and things like that. And so as a result, his friend was setting up a very, very stable kind of a lifestyle for himself, looking at buying houses and stuff like that, while the other one was, or I guess we'd say, falling behind. So these kind of things help me start to understand these social inequalities, and kind of, would say, planted the seeds. Um, all the while just having one person that believed in me really completely changed the course of my life.
Mm.
It's thanks to this person that, again, she was really pushing me to go to college, despite me not having a leaving cert, which eventually got me into college 10 years later. Um, and that kind of started getting me more and more on track to build uh, a more of a solid foundation from my life, like that kind of security. But all that to say that if it hadn't have been for her intervention and for her mentorship and for her kind of giving me the time that no one else would, and seeing something in me that no one else could see, I would have ended up arguably in the same position as other people in from that demographic. So overall, that really kind of showed me what we need. Like, people that come from that, we don't think are given a fair shot. We
Mm.
think there's a social narrative that's being told about them from all walks of life. People in professional lifestyles, can be people in positions of power, whether that be teachers, whether that be law enforcement, whether that be management, whoever it is, have a predetermined idea of who these people are and where they're going, which is completely false.
Mm.
Every single person, regardless of what you come from, in terms of a social demographic background, has the same, or should have the same opportunities, but they have the same potential.
Yeah.
So why aren't they given a shot? And this is all what guerrilla education is about. It's about giving, especially these children, but adults as well, the opportunities that society decided that they shouldn't have.
Mm. Amazing. Thanks so much also for like just sharing a bit of your story and being so vulnerable with it. I think that's really where guerrilla education is different from other projects, because it really is coming from your heart, from your own personal story, and in everything you do, I can see that you really like pour in what you've experienced, and you have this empathy towards other people, and you don't want them to go through what you had to go through, and that is really the heart of the project. Um Another thing I wanted to get into is that a lot of people care about issues, or like maybe they feel anger or disappointment towards issues, but how did you go from caring about your issue in this case to actually doing something about it?
Um, this is another kind of, I think it's a nice story about people seeing beyond those social narratives and giving others giving others a shot, we think. So this idea for good education we have had for about 10 years now. Ever since I started doing my undergrad in finance, we've had this idea of going and bringing workshops about money to people that need it. But I also, coming from my background, and that lack of, we'll say, resources to know what options are available, I thought that I need to be in a secure, stable situation myself, which still isn't the case. Like, I'm still by no means secure or stable financially, despite having everything I have, like in terms of knowledge and education and whatnot. But that was the big barrier. Was, I thought I need money to invest in this. We need to have the business plan, business registration, all that kind of stuff that you don't need. But I think what the two key things that really made it happen from or bring it from an idea that I felt passionate about to a reality. Number one was a friend of mine last year where I spoke about this idea, and she gave me so much validation and so much. She turned around. She didn't give me a choice. Basically, saying you need to make this happen. Like, this is such a real valid idea. This is something I haven't really shared with a lot of people. This idea about grid
Mm.
education up to this point. So, for me, I didn't even know if I was on the mark with someone. It was just a personal feeling, and something that I would have loved to do, but I didn't know whether it was needed or not. I
Mm.
didn't know whether it was a good idea or not, or a feasible idea. So, this one friend, once she'd heard my story and heard this idea, just basically turned around and said, "You've no choice. You have to do this.
Mm.
Like, it is so necessary, so needed."
Mm.
So that was the first one, and then she pushed me into applying for the Stand Ideas Collective. And this is going to sound like marketing or whatever. I'm not being asked to
Mm.
what's the word,
Advertising.
advertise. There we go. I'm not being asked to advertise for the Ideas Collective. This is genuine and authentic. But um, she pushed me to apply for it, and then the same deal. Like, everyone I've spoken to ever since that day, this would have been going back just over a year ago now. So um, I was lucky enough to stand. So a couple of representatives from Stan, I got to come down to college, and I got to have a chat with Susie. Um, and Susie was exactly the same, pushing me to, like, yeah, absolutely, you need to apply, you need to follow the process, you'll
Mm.
have an interview and all that. Went to the interview, and ever since then, in the Ideas Collective itself, it's just been nothing but encouragement, help, advice, kind of everything that you need to make this a reality, which is also what makes it so important. Because for people like me that come from a background that doesn't give as much access to resources and tools and information and knowledge, if I hadn't have had these two interventions, so the Stand Ideas Collective, my friend that pushed me to apply for it, I'd be still sitting on this idea today and
Mm.
still just waiting for the day that I'm financially secure enough to be able to go and start up a social
Mm.
enterprise. So um, it's absolutely critical. These kind of factors that come in have made this transform from that idea to something in practice where we can now go out and deliver these workshops and actually bring people the information they need.
Mm. Amazing.
So
Thank you for that. Um, Going back maybe to the start of your journey with your project, what has been like the biggest challenge for you?
oh, where to start? Again, we think, and a lot of people, I think, would really empathize with this, but the imposter syndrome, like, why me? Why do people believe in this? Why is it valid? I think um, that's the toughest challenge by far. If you strip back all the practical things as well, because surely the logistics around starting up a business, and you look at banks, business registration, communications, all that kind of stuff is challenging. But getting beyond that to the point of um like, these people all want to help me. These people that I admire and I respect, these people that are heroes in my eyes, that I would dream of being in the same room to have a conversation with them, are actually here pushing me and giving me access to their resources, to their networks, advice, coaching, everything.
Mm.
So it's really, to be honest, like despite all the practical stuff, that's still today the hardest thing. We again, a coaching session that we had last week that's only made available to me thanks to Stan, um, was coming across, like was trying to help me understand that I need to get past this barrier to make things happen for a girl education. And I think the tool or the advice that was given to me there was is realizing that it's not about me, it's about the people that I'm going to be going out to help. So
Mm.
overcoming that is by far the biggest challenge. But again, it's a bit of a paradox as well because I'm still surrounded by some of the most amazing human beings I've ever met, and that are constantly encouraging me, constantly helping me overcome that imposter syndrome and pushing me and
Mm.
trying to normalize the fact that I'm in this environment. So it's it's a bittersweet challenge, but again, it's just a, I don't know where I'm going with that. It's yeah, it's tough, but it is overcomable as well. And anyone that does feel something similar to that as well, that imposter syndrome, um, I encourage you to reach out and
Mm.
talk to people, because you can't let that become something that stops you from bringing change to others, and
Mm.
helping others. So, reach out, talk to people if you're experiencing that.
Mm. And maybe to look a bit more on the positive side of things, what was the thing, or was there some things that kept you going, or that really helped you develop your idea and your project?
Everyone, everyone along the journey. To be honest, I wouldn't even know where to start if we had to. But the people in the Ideas Collective itself, so in the incubator, in the week long boot camp that we did, everyone that was in there was so genuine and authentic and have and encouraged. There's no sense of competition. There was never a, if if I help you, you might win, which means I'll lose or anything like that. Everyone really understood and could see that we're all just doing it to try and improve the lives that we're all living, whether it be in Ireland or globally.
Mm.
So everyone, in that boot camp, um, the guests that we had along, who again, this boot camp was, wow, we're almost a year ago now. It's about 10 months ago, and
Mm-hmm.
still today, 10 months later, that community is still there. I'm still
Mm.
in touch with everyone that was there, still encouraging each other, still helping each other along, celebrating the wins together.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, to answer your question, I think everyone that's just been along with the journey,
Mm.
whether that be formally as a part of Stand, informally through the incubator, or externally to that, just privately, like everyone that has been a part of that journey has made it happen. Which again, we think really comes down to we the power, like the power to change things comes from people, nothing else.
Mm.
Nothing else. It's everyone that's in on that journey. It's not the systems. It's not the knowledge itself. It's just the people. If you've got the right people around you, anything's possible.
Mm. Amen to that. To anyone that's listening to this and is thinking about an idea that they've had maybe for a long time or a short time, but they don't really know where to start or how to go about it, what would you tell them?
This is going to tie in so much with what I just said, but talk to people about it, because Guerrilla Education wouldn't have come about if we didn't have that conversation with a friend of mine, which led to me applying. Guerrilla Education wouldn't have made it out of the incubator if I wasn't talking to people there and collaborating, or well, collaborating feels like such a corporate word, but like kind of working with others. Like you know yourself, the name of it came from someone from our group in the incubator. So again, I wouldn't have had such a class name. To be honest, one of my favorite things about Green Education is the name itself. We didn't come up with that. So
Mm.
again, that kind of working with other people. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but the diversity. I think one of the most important things I learned from my studies last year is to not burden yourself with having to find all the answers yourself.
Mm.
That's where other brains, other people, their experiences and their backgrounds, their perspectives can all come into play. So the more you talk to people about these things, the more insight you can have. And that that pressure to have the right answer, that pressure to kind of know from A to Z, like how to do it, just vanishes. So anyone that's sitting on an idea, anyone that is even maybe got halfway there with an idea but doesn't know the other half, go and talk to people you trust, talk to people that you know maybe doing something similar, talk to people online, in person, talk to a stranger, talk to whoever, but go and just get it out, because that's all. Like, we think some people will say, you know, it's intention and things like that, but that is, it's um opportunity and what's the other word, action, we think, we can't remember, but just putting it out there is already making it that much more realistic.
Mm.
And then it's just one step after another. So if you're stuck, talk is my biggest piece of advice.
Mm. And maybe to come back to the Ideas Collective, if there's anyone out there that is thinking about joining the Ideas Collective this year, we're having three different ones in Dublin, Cork, and Galway. What would you tell them? Should they join, and why should they join?
We wouldn't tell them. I think my first question would be, what have you got to lose? Like, you've got a program that makes so much in general accessible. The biggest thing we got out of the Ideas Collective, along with just the community, is accessibility. We said earlier that I'm in rooms having conversations with people that, you know, we could only dream of chatting to. And, you know, these people are my heroes. These people are doing things that we would never dream of being able to do myself. And thanks to the Ideas Collective, now these people are messaging me, I'm messaging them. You know, this is helping me help Guerrilla Education, but I'm also able to make a contribution to them and their projects too, which is a dream come true. So realistically, what have you got to lose? You know, it's a week where you're going to learn so much, not only about you know, a social entrepreneurial idea, but also about yourself, about others. You're going to get a chance to experience, I'd say 99.9% of cases, something you've never experienced before. So whether or not you come out of it and you feel like you're ready to launch that social enterprise, the experience itself is incredible. Then the best case scenario is you end up coming out of that with that social enterprise idea, and you keep pushing, you keep working towards it. You come out of it with community. You're going to come out of it with confidence. You're going to come out of it with more ideas. So maybe even if that first idea is not the right one, the second or the third or the fifth or the 50th might be the right one. So again, not so much what I'd say is, well, what have you got to lose by trying? Like, give it a shot. If you get accepted, brilliant. Go along, have fun with it, and enjoy the experience of it, because you won't lose anything from it.
I like that. That really is so true. And I think for anyone that is thinking about joining, that is really the right mindset. What do you have to lose? Either you sit on the idea and it just stays an idea, or you can actually turn it into something impactful and meaningful, like you did with your project. Yeah, that was already my last question for you. Thank you, Ash, for sharing a bit of your heart and a bit of your project with us. And I wish you all the best, honestly, from the bottom of my heart for your project and for your life. I think anyone that listens to this can see a bit of your heart behind the project and how much you really, truly care about social change. And that is so admirable. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jemima. We think, honestly, to leave it on a final message, we think everyone, regardless of where you come from, has the potential to influence something around them. So we think, for anyone out there that is listening to this and is unsure, or maybe sitting on the fence, or doesn't think that they are capable of themselves, I tell you right now, you are. Everyone is. Everyone can, based off their own personal experience, influence something for themselves and others. So if you are unsure, by all means, reach out to me. Reach out how through Stand, if you like. Like, give it a shot. Like, we've got one life to live, and like, I can guarantee you, you'll have no regrets in actually trying it. There's nothing to lose. So, but otherwise, thanks, Miller, for having me down today. It's an absolute pleasure to any kind of involvement I can have with Stand is always a pleasure. it's great to see you again. It's great to chat, and yeah, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on. So.
Thanks, Ash.
The Ideas Collective is a free summer boot camp for students and recent graduates with an idea for social change. Find out more at stand.ie.